If you've been thinking about joining the ADHD Spring Declutter Challenge, this is your window. Doors close May 15th.
4 Saturdays, May 16th, 23rd, 30th, and June 6th. You bring a space, Nikki brings the framework, and you work alongside a community of people who are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time.
That's right. No perfection required. No pressure to have it all figured out before you show up. Just 4 Saturdays to make real progress on something that has felt impossible for way too long.
All the details are at takecontroladhd.com/declutter.
We would love to have you there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
I just have to say, in our little brief pre-show today, we were talking about the construction that is happening concurrently on my house, and Melissa's comment in the chat room was, I love that Nikki's Foley for the sound of a hammer sounds like she's spurring on a horse. I have to tell you, I don't even remember what you did, but that slays me.
I know the hand motion was like, oh, it's that thing.
That's whipping a horse. Whipping a carriage.
And I was thinking, you have a hammer and you're
have a
nailing things to the wall.
with a fringe on top is what we've got going on there. Yeah, it's very exciting. And so we are talking about tools today.
Oh. But not hammers.
not hammer. I actually was confused by our own topic. So I am very much looking forward to this, only insofar as it is once again the chance for me to slice myself open and lay out my tool-finding intestines all over the table in front of you as you take me to church. That's what I'm expecting today.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
I have some questions for you right out of the gate.
Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. Before we get into today's show, I want to tell you about our Patreon community, because if you're a regular listener, this might just be your next move. Members get early, ad-free access to every episode, access to members-only channels in our Discord server, and a seat in the live stream recording of the show where you can ask questions to us or our guests as we record. Plus, we throw in specials all the time. But honestly, the thing people talk about the most isn't any of that. It's this incredible group of people in our community. This is real people living with ADHD who show up for each other in a way that is pretty special. If you've ever wanted to be more than just a listener, this is where it happens. Visit patreon.com/theADHDpodcast to learn more. And if you're not ready for that, that's fine too. Find us at takecontroladhd.com, connect with us on social, join the Discord, or sign up for the weekly email. We would love to have you wherever you land. All right, Kinzer.
All right.
Let's do it. Tell me about the tools.
Well, I want to start the conversation with what has your experience been with tool shopping and hopping around your planning tools?
Yeah, I think you know what that's like.
I want to be reminded.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to turn it around on you. As a coach, when you witness my relationship with tool hopping, what is your impression with my experience of tool hopping and shopping?
Of you personally? You
me.
Specifically? Okay.
Yeah, me specifically.
Well, first of all, whatever you tell me to do, I do. So I trust you.
Okay. All right.
I trust that you have a good eye on these things, and that if you like a tool, I'm going to believe that it's a good tool. If you don't like a tool, I'm going to believe that it's not a good tool. So I, definitely trust you. I would say that you are very much the person that likes to experiment and likes to get your hands in them and see how it's going to work for you. I do know that you spent a lot of time in a chapter of your life where you were going in between systems just to see how they all worked.
Yeah.
And that felt like a little crazy. Like, that's a lot of attention and details and discipline that you had to have in that moment to take care of, I don't even know how many you had going on at one time, but share
Well,
that
it's not
experience.
great. It's not great. I mean, a therapist might call it avoidant behavior, that I was working so hard to catalog the work that I was avoiding actually doing it.
Doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do go through periods where I'm just fascinated by tools, by to-do lists and calendars and all of the systems that allow us to keep our time together. And I will say, in my defense, I haven't done that in a while. I've
No.
landed on, I think as a result of all that checking, I've landed on something that has been really positive for me.
Hmm.
Getting there was really hard. I mean, there was a period where I was balancing 4 at a time, and one might drop out and another would come in, and I would use them and recreate every project, every task manually if I had to, automatically if they would import or sync. And if I finished a task, I would have to go to each app and check it off. The same
That's a
thing.
lot.
It's a lot of
I don't
apps.
recommend that to our
No,
listeners. I
no.
really don't. I just don't do what Pete did.
Let my life serve as a warning to others. Yeah,
Yes.
that's how I live my life.
Yes. So you've done some tool shopping and you've done some hopping, but you found some that, seem to be working with you right now. So that's good. That's good. It's interesting because one of the things that I think happens, and you're hitting on this a little bit, but there's that what we call FOBO, fear of better options, right? And that's definitely very true with ADHD brains because I think every single uh, seminar or summit or presentation that I've ever done when it comes to planning is everybody wants to know what is the best tool for ADHD. Should I go digital? Should I go paper? Should I do both? And then you see these ads too that pop up like, this is the ADHD app. This is the best for ADHDers and all of this. I saw one the other day that I wonder if Brene Brown knows that they're using her face on an app.
What?
Yeah,
Her
like, I don't know if you guys
face.
have seen this, but there's this Facebook app, or this ad, and it's for some kind of calendar app, but it's so interesting to me because it's her face, but they don't say her name, they say B. Brown, which makes me think that it's not Brene Brown, and anyway, so you gotta be careful. Like, I don't know, that could be completely legit, but still, like, it makes me weary of, like, what's going on there, it doesn't feel right. Yeah. So today we're talking about what to look for in a planning tool because obviously, even though we are looking for the perfect one, we're always still in search of something maybe different because in the past things haven't worked out. And that's what I hear most too is that I've tried every planner, I've tried every uh, digital task manager there is, I've tried everything, but it doesn't work out. And you and I write about this in this book that we wrote, right? Called Unapologetically ADHD.
I've never heard of it. Tell me more.
Oh, tell you more. Okay. Well, what we have found, you and I, when we were writing this book, is that the problem isn't the tool, it's how we're using the tool. And what is the tool doing for us? How is it actually working for us? And I think it's hard to not blame ourselves when a tool doesn't work. And it's hard not to blame the tool because we got to blame something,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because something didn't work. And so there's a section in the book even that says, is it the tool or is it me? And I think it's important that we kind of figure out that distinction. I have a little story to share with you. I had a client, GPS member, who was talking about switching her task manager. And she told me that she hadn't been using it for a while. And, she was thinking maybe it's time to move on. And so I asked her, what's been getting in the way of you using it? And she said, well, I'm really afraid of what I'm going to find when I go into it. I'm worried that there's going to be a ton of past due tasks and things that I haven't done. So I just want you to pause for a second and notice what she didn't say. She didn't say anything about she didn't say anything that was wrong with the tool itself. She didn't say that it was hard to access or that she didn't like how the today view looked, or, she didn't say anything about that. The tool was actually doing what it was supposed to do, is it was holding her information for her, right?
Sure. Right.
So the problem wasn't the task manager. The problem was the emotional weight that she had attached to it, right? Because there was this emotional shame and like dread and all of this stuff that was coming up. And so, what we want to think about before you replace a tool is we really do have to ask ourselves what's getting in the way of using it. What is our friction that we always say, right? What is stopping us before we replace it?
Right, right. It is a really interesting. It's a puzzle because it's so easy for us to instinctively look at it and say, well, if it's not working, it must be because I don't know, a software update, the tool has changed somehow, and not step back and recognize that just because of the way our wonderful brains work, sometimes what we see changes. Literally, what we see and the way we interpret what we see is changing. And that's okay. It's just the way it is. But that's why landing on a tool and not blaming the tool is such an important freedom. It is a freedom. There's a freedom, a liberation that comes with recognizing that I've got all my work in this bucket that is task shaped or schedule shaped. And sometimes, depending on my mood and my chemistry, that shape may not be appealing to me to the point that I need a scapegoat. And I'll blame that task bucket before I blame myself because I already carry too much and I need to outsource some of that.
Right. Absolutely.
And that is like, it sounds to neuronormative folks, I know that sounds like lunacy, right? It's why do you give so much? They look at me and they say, why do you give so much to an app? I'm like, you have no idea. You have no idea the relationship I have to develop with an app. To you, it's an app. To me, it's a lifeline.
Absolutely. Right. Right. Because it's that accommodation that you
Yeah.
need to keep everything in order and onto something and not in your brain, right? Not in your mind. Yeah. Well, and I think that one of the things that we don't talk about very often is when we do switch a tool, because there's legitimate reasons to do it for sure. And it's okay to switch a tool just because you want something new. Like, I don't think you and I have ever said not to do that. Like,
No.
people like new shiny things. Something comes out and it's exciting and we want to look at it. But I think where people get stuck and they don't realize it is when they're in the between stages where they're halfway in one tool and then they're halfway in another. And they haven't quite figured out, like they haven't quite just gone all in. So it's hard to do that because you're working in two systems, and you know this because you were working in four at one time. You can't remember what's where. You can't trust either one of them because you really don't know where everything is. And you stop trusting either system. So then, you end up going back to kind of the easiest ways to capture, which is either keeping it in your head, sticky notes, emails to yourself, random notebooks, all of these things that sort of get all, spread out all over the place. But nothing is really reliable. And so I think that we forget that putting a time frame and some intentional work into, I am going to transfer from this task manager to this task manager by this date, can really be helpful. Because if you don't have that deadline, you could be in between two systems for a long time and get frustrated again, and then say neither system is working for me. I need to do something else all over again.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing worse than task rot, right? You'll close it because you're afraid of committing to it and looking at it, and you'll come back to it realizing that things have been dropped, and you'll look at it and it's just a sea of red tasks, and you, just because you weren't on top of it, now it's almost impossible to feel like you'll ever be on top of it.
Right, right. Which is so interesting to me because that client that I was telling you about, I went in with her to her task manager, and it wasn't nearly as bad as she thought it was going to be. They were outdated tasks for the most part. So a lot of them we could just delete. And what was there was all very manageable. And I think that that's something that gets forgotten sometimes too, is that when you take the time and effort to build something up in the first place, that time and effort doesn't just go away because you're behind.
Right.
You have the
Right.
structure in place. So going in and actually updating it, I mean, it took us minutes
But
to
see,
do that.
that's those minutes carry so much weight, and it's because
Oh,
of
they
something we've
do.
talked about before, which is the just a couple of weeks ago, which was the moral failing that comes with a tool that falls apart, or a plan that falls apart. That it's not like what looks like it should just take a couple of minutes to get back on top of it. You can't even approach those few minutes because you feel so empty and out of control. So how could you possibly confront that in the scope of a couple of minutes? There's no way I could reframe that into something that could possibly take a couple of minutes because I am such a failure. That's the language, right? Even if we're not actively using that language, that's definitely the vibe.
Well, and it's definitely the emotional piece to what you're how you're feeling about this tool in the first place. Those red tasks, right, are just the deadlines, the past due are screaming at you. But I do want people to also, and this is my point, is that you're not starting all over. You really aren't. And so if you can find whatever little piece of courage you have to face that today view and just know that you can get through it, you can check it off. And it's okay again if you wanted to start all over again too, right? There's again nothing wrong with that if it's been a while. Um, but I just want people to remember they're not starting all over. You did put all of that work in and you have a really good structure. And even if you don't have a good structure, now is the time to figure out like where did it go wrong? Where like this particular project flow maybe worked really well, but the other one didn't. So it also gives you some time to figure that out. But again, it's not easy to do by yourself either. Like
Yes,
you
for
know,
sure.
it helps to see what other people are doing and have that support around you as well. Okay.
So we're
So
talking about tools. We're talking about tools that are fundamental to the workbox.
to the workbox that are fundamental to planning specifically. So, as we mentioned, there is not a perfect ADHD tool. Any tool can work. I've seen very complex digital systems that people use faithfully. And I've also seen people use a index card system that they use faithfully. So we can go to very simple um, paper type of to-do lists to something that's very complex. It depends on what you need and what you want and what you're comfortable with. So I would never push somebody who doesn't like digital to go to digital. Like if they love paper, they should do paper. We can make that work for them.
Well, because you know yourself and you know you're not going to use it, right? You're just not going to use it. So why set yourself up for that
It
level of
Yes,
abandonment?
exactly. Exactly. Um so there's two non-negotiables, in my opinion, when it comes to your planning toolkit. And those two things are the calendar and the task manager. So the calendar tells you where you need to be and when you need to be there. This is your time tool. These are your appointments, your commitments, your deadlines, your time blocks. If it involves time, it lives here. Um, Task manager organizes and keeps track of your projects and tasks. So this is your work tool, right? I feel like I'm sounding like you, Pete, right? When you're talking about workbooks. This is your work tool. Uh, Everything you need to do is in your workbox, broken down, prioritized, it's visible, whatever that looks like for you. But these two tools are foundational. Everything else that you may have, which could be part of your workbox, like sticky notes, notebooks, mind maps, all of those things, they're capture tools that we capture our ideas or our new information, but eventually they go into either the calendar or some kind of task manager, unless it's a one-off thing. And, I have a sticky note that says, call my sister because it happens to be her birthday today. Call her. I'm done. I can throw that away. But these are really the two that we want to pay most attention to, is how you're working with your calendar and how you're working with your task manager.
So I think both of them have their pros and cons. We don't need to
Sure.
litigate all of the pros and cons, but you just demonstrated something that I find I run into people who run into this challenge, which is you have a thing to do that lives in a sticky note, and you also work digitally, and there is a time that comes for everybody who does this where things get out of control because they never do cleanup.
They never take the information from the
Yeah.
sticky note into their work box.
And put it so if it's important stuff. So I
Yes.
just want to talk about that a little bit because or have you talk about that a little bit because I think it lets people off the hook if we don't talk about it to one of the key points of the tool basket. Right? If you don't want to let people off the hook for a hybrid system when there is such an easy chance for it to get out of control.
Yes. And I'm going to introduce a little bit of our GPS method, what we do in our GPS planning membership, and what we talk about in our book. This is also very much about our book. What you're talking about is you have to define your workflow. You have to figure out, how does information move through your system? And so it's important, I think, to know what your two main tools are, but then we also need to know what are our capture tools. Where do we have our inboxes, right? So if we think about mail, just like snail mail, you go to the mailbox and you get some new information. I use sticky notes. It's part of my inbox because it's easy for me to write something down on a sticky note and put it somewhere so I don't forget. But if this had been a task that wasn't a one-off task, it somehow needs to get into my task manager. And that's where we do this like planning workflow. And this is part of what I teach in GPS, is that you have to have some time in your schedule where you are collecting these things that you're capturing. But to do that, you need to know where they are. And the more inboxes you have, the more stressful it's going to be. But this is the thing. None of us are only going to have one or two inboxes. We all have lots of inboxes.
Lots of inboxes everywhere.
But we need to have, like, what I say to my membership is, let's write a list. Let's list them out. What are your inboxes? What's the purpose? Like, what kind of information is coming into that inbox? And then we need to have time. Part of the GPS process is spending some time with those inboxes and transferring them to our calendar and to our task manager. But if you don't set that time or have that workflow set up, guaranteed these things. And the people that see me visually are seeing me like wave the sticky note in the air, but those are going to be everywhere and it's going to be scattered.
Well, and that's where I think this, if you've struggled with planning before, that's where I think you might bounce off, right? Because you're used to the tools creating a sense of disarray over
Right.
time. And I don't, as long as we've been talking about this stuff, I don't see any solution that avoids the fact that you just have to build a new muscle. You have to build a new muscle for a new set of sort of chained skills. One is recognizing what your best capture tools are, sticky notes, whatever, notebook, whatever, and committing to it, to doing the practice of getting the new ideas into some sort of system, or you're a person who is okay not working like that, right? Not working with any sort of, but if you work with anyone else in your life, if there's any organization that needs bills paid on time, on a calendar, there is no way around the fact that there's a muscle that has to be built. And for some of us, that muscle is very hard to reach.
And it's very hard to reach alone. And I think that that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in running the membership is that when we are in community and we have people that we can bounce ideas off of, and when we're doing this process and we're not doing it alone, it makes a huge difference. It also makes a huge difference to have some kind of almost like checklist to go through, because if you just try to sit and plan, I'm going to plan the day today, but you don't know how to do that exactly, and you don't really have a method that you're going off of, it becomes incredibly frustrating and not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I think that that's why I love our book so much, because it does give you that outline. It gives you that base to say, okay, I need to get my life in a little bit of order. What do I do first? And it gives you these steps. And I think you made a really good point too. It's a skill, it's a muscle you have to build if you don't want to continue living the way that you're living.
Right. That's the trick. It
Yeah.
is totally okay to live any way you want. It's fine.
Absolutely.
But if this is something that's important to you and you say it's important to you, then this is the new skill. This is where that skill lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. You want to get into just some how to choose your tools?
Do it. Yeah. Help me choose a tool.
Some
Nikki,
takeaways?
I've never chosen a tool. Please help me.
Okay, Pete, right? Liar.
Nikki, no, I've literally never chosen a tool.
Right. Yeah.
I've used them all and I've never chosen a tool. Please help me.
I'm still in 4. I'm still using 4.
There's something I need to tell you. Oh my God.
All right. So this may surprise people, but when I'm working with folks, especially one-on-one, and we're talking about tools, I will usually ask them by the next coaching appointment in the next week, I want you to have chosen a tool that you're going to use. That's 1 week.
That seems like a threat.
It's not a threat. It comes from a place of encouragement and love and wanting this person to succeed, because man, we can sit in the fear of better options for weeks, months, probably years for some folks, right? And never make a decision. And so what I want to do is say 2 weeks is maximum, because the problem is if we sit too long and we never try anything, and we have to practice our tools. When we talk about AI and we talk about using AI, I still remember you saying you have to practice it. You have to practice. Right. And it's the same thing with, picking a tool. There is no perfect one. The only way you're going to know if it works is if you practice it. So, give yourself a week or 2 to do the research. Ask some people that you trust. Like I said, I trust what you tell me. If you told me to drop what I'm using, I might question you about that, only because I think what we're using right now really works well.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you really had something that, I would listen. Sign up for your free trials, kind of figure out if you do, is it intuitive? If you're like me, I hate looking at instructions and reading stuff. I like to just go in there and play and see, can I figure it out on my own? If it's good enough, go with it. And then I would say once you pick the tool, then we really need to get to know your ADHD. And that sounds a little bit strange, but we're going to go a little bit deeper into why these other tools in the past haven't been working for you. Where do they break down? We love the word friction. Is it keeping it updated? Is it getting the information into it? Is it breaking the projects down? Is it reoccurring tasks that are throwing you off? I have this conversation with my members a lot around, do you put your routines in your task manager or do you keep them separate? Those reoccurring
Yeah,
daily
great
routines.
question.
And some people really like them all in one place, and some people like them separate because they clog up what the other stuff is that's important. Not that your routines aren't important, but it clutters it. So it's all a different perspective for different people. But it's a conversation you have to have with yourself. Is that part of the friction? Is I have too much that's coming up on one day?
Right.
And then, choosing a tool that supports your challenges and supports with what you need. Um, and not just looking at it again, going back to this is the perfect ADHD tool, like the people that are on videos. We have to be careful of that. And then I would say commit to learning it. Learn your tool. Give it at least 30 days before you decide it's not working. Every tool has a learning curve. If it's digital, pay for the upgrade, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are never, ever, ever, and I will stand on my grave on this. You will never get out of a task manager what you need if you don't pay anything for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really important. And most of the task managers and calendars, there's some limitation that, you can use it for free, but only up to like 3 projects and 50
Yes.
tasks or something like
Yes.
that. And just know what that behavior is. I know you're looking to save some money. It's great. But if the tool is going to be important to you, you don't want to constantly be dealing with the cognitive overload
Right.
of paring down the tasks that you throw into it or the calendars you put into it because of this monetary block. If
Yes.
it's too expensive, there are other tools
Yes, that are
um,
not that
that are
expensive.
not that expensive, right?
And
So that's a different kind of a negotiation, but just recognize that the best tools require some sort of investment.
yes. And that's the thing, is it's an investment. You talked about it being a lifeline. That is what it is. We want you to feel like this is an investment and a lifeline for you. This is not a tool to be, what do I want to say? Which it is for a lot of people, it's this shame trigger. And we don't want it to be that. We want it to help you. We want it to be something that you appreciate and can work with, right? So I definitely think that learning it, and this is where you can get into some of the videos of one of the things I'll tell people if they're using Todoist is, go look on YouTube of using Todoist when you have ADHD, or go into the videos that Todoist or things or whatever, Asana, whatever task manager you're using, to learn it. You do need to, and this is definitely, I think I've told my people my wide nab story about how I just thought I could figure it out without like
Yeah,
getting any help to figure it out. And I
right.
had to restart all over. So there is definitely some value in learning.
Yeah, and I do want to throw out there because just on the heels of me saying you have to pay for a tool, what I also want to say is sometimes the built-in tools are enough. Say you're
Right.
a Mac user, Apple Reminders, Apple Notes, Apple Calendar are deeply robust tools if you give yourself the time and it works with your brain. Like you
Yeah.
can do a lot, especially if you're not working with a team.
Hmm.
There is some task sharing, but it's really designed for personal sharing. If that's enough for you, they're really good. They're really, really good if you're on a Mac. And I'm sure we can find something on Windows.
Yes. I'm sure you can.
So that said, understanding the constraints under which you operate and what you're
Right.
trying to accomplish will also go into that. Sometimes you just have to start with the basic thing that's available to you to understand where the constraints are, to
Hmm.
realize there is no way my brain works with this. I'm going to have to go for a bigger, better, more robust tool.
Right.
That's okay
Right.
too.
That's absolutely okay. And I think it's also important to remember that they're never really finished. I adjust and redo the organizational structure in my task manager all the time.
Boy, that's the truth.
You know, you don't just throw something up there and then think it's going to stick. Like, it changes all the time. And you see that because I change it for our team a lot too.
Yeah.
When it's not working. So I think it's important to know that too, that it's always changing. And the goal is never to have it be perfect, because it never will be. And yeah, I hope that this gives people some knowledge or some thought of what, if they are willing or ready to look at something new, give you some things to think about. And we also have a download.
We do?
Yes.
I had no idea.
You didn't?
Do go on.
We have a special episode. We have a special download just for this episode called, again, I'm so creative, Your Planning Tool Finder. Right?
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Your planning tool finder. So it's a short guide that walks you through the questions you need to answer before you choose your tools. Okay. That's so fun. You're going to find it in the show notes.
All right. It will be in the show notes, and you can go grab that on the show notes page, in the show notes on the website. There will be a place where you can grab that. If you are stuck and looking for a tool, that is the thing you can use to help guide your thinking beyond what we have been talking about today. Thanks, Nikki. Good job. Good job, Nikki.
Thank you, co-author of Unapologetically ADHD.
You are crushing it at reminding me of past Pete's accomplishments. Just crushing it.
Yes.
We appreciate you all downloading and listening to this show. Thanks for your time and your attention. Don't forget, if you have something to contribute to the conversation, we're heading over to the Show Talk channel on our Discord server, and you can join us right there by becoming a supporting member at the deluxe level or better. Patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, and I'm tools everywhere, frankly. On behalf of all the great tools, I'm Pete Wright, and we will see you back next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.